community in which the Universidade Federal do Ceará is involved directly. We will work also in the northeast of Brazil. And in the near future, I hope to work also here in Florianopolis, because I really love also Florianopolis. Well, my problem is that every single patch that I move in Brazil, I love it, so it would be impossible to work everywhere, but it's okay, it's okay.
Centering. Try the food.
Yeah, that's my weak point. I think you understood. That's my weak point. So I want to just give you the idea of what I have been doing during these last years and what is the perspective of what I will do during the last, like, hopefully 10, 15 years, trying to understand what will happen. And, well, this is an animal forest. I will talk about the animal forest. What is the animal forest? The animal forest is this. The animal forest, if I have to explain in some way what it is this living three-dimensional structure similar to a vegetation forest, but composed basically of sponges, of cnidarians, bryozoans, ascidians, and other sessile animals, organisms in the ocean benthos. Animal forest is everything. If I have to be honest, animal forest is everything. You know this animal forest probably, which is the most common animal forest in the world, is the coral reef. The coral reef is an animal forest composed basically by hard corals, but also octocorals, sponges, and other organisms like ascidians, bryozoans, etc. And also macroalgae, of course. I mean, it's also composed of macroalgae, which are part of the forest, but are not the suspension feeding organisms. If you have to think about it, truly the animal forest is much more widespread below 50 meters depth. 500 meters depth or below. Think that the marine animal forest is the most widespread ecosystem all over the world, because 70% of the surface of the planet is water, and a huge quantity of the surface of the benthos is really composed, is really colonized, is really composed of this marine animal forest. You have, for example, marine animal forest in the Mesozoic. You have marine animal forest in the cold water corals that can be 1,000 meters depth, 800 meters depth. You have marine animal forest in the Arctic. This is Greenland. You have marine animal forest, beautiful marine animal forest in Antarctica. These are sponges, which can be sized like that, and are filtering, feeding all the particles that are there. This is also from Antarctica, fantastic marine animal forest. This is the Mediterranean marine animal forest of gorgonians, basically Panalythea, Ornithella, and other gorgonians that make this three-dimensional structure. And this is probably the most common marine animal forest that has been wiped out. This is the marine animal forest living in the continental platform. In the continental platform, you have soft bottoms, which are colonized by some organisms, like, for example, pennatulaceans, like, for example, some sponges, like, for example, other octocorals and other organisms, but has been wiped out because continental platform is the focus of bottom trophic. So, have been, as I will tell you, disappeared. And why the animal forests are so important, at least for me? Well, the animal forest has an oceanic effect. All the animal forests have many organisms that have reproduction cycles inside the animal forest. They shelter from the predators, for example, and they try also to feed in this complex system. The animal forest has a quite important role for many fisheries, because the marine animal forest is gathering fishes, are gathering crustaceans, and gathering also mollusks and echinoderms that are part of the food that we are taking. Some of these marine animal forests are essential for this kind of natural resources. As you know, they are also biodiversity hotspots. For example, in 1 meter square of Caribbean marine animal forest coral reef. There may be more than 1,000 species, different species, living in, a part of the corals, of course, crustaceans, mollusks, planarians, you have nematodes, and many other organisms living within these complex structures, okay, and they are essential for biogeochemical cycling. As you may know, the exchange of these organisms, which is very active, could be active or passive, but can be very, very, very important for the renewal of nutrients, entering of nutrients, and release of some nutrients. Also, some animal forests are also important for tourist attraction. It's also a source of money with the fisheries, maybe also a source of money in many places. For example, here in Brazil, I'm convinced that many places are target for diving centers in which they go there. They enjoy about turtles, about sharks, about many other things, and also corals. One of the most neglected parts of the animal forest, the ecosystem service animal forest, is this one. Marine animal forests act as carbon sinks. They are really carbon sinks. They are part of the system of the carbon cycling and the carbon storage all over the world. We do have some numbers about, for example, other coastal marine forests. We do know, for example, that in the seaweeds and the seagrasses are carbon storage structures. Also the mangroves are carbon storage structures, and also the interface between the wetlands, the interface between the sea and the land are huge places in which the carbon storage can be as much as 15 times more important than the land forest. This is very interesting. In the ocean, the organisms that structure these three-dimensional communities have a huge capability to store this kind of carbon that we are emitting.
May I ask a question now?
Yes.
Can you go to the previous slide?
Yes.
Just to inspire me.
This one?
No, the other one.
Is this one?
No, the other one. No, that one about 50 times higher.
This?
Yes, because I was thinking something that you were talking about these ecosystems.
Yes.
That are in the transitional area between
Yes.
the sea and the land.
Uh-huh.
So in this transitional area, we have also the water column. So
Yes.
you have the phytoplankton. So my question is, these rates, they are related really to the benthonic animals, or really to the mangrove trees, or these rates are related also to the work of the phytoplankton?
No, they are related to the three-dimensional structure, because this is carbon stored. The phytoplankton.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. For the cycling, phytoplankton is the best. You know that this is fantastic, because phytoplankton, what you see, we have to save Amazonian forest. I agree. We have to save the Indonesian forest. I agree. But as you know, Amazonian forest and Indonesian forest, Congo forest, boreal forest are not emitting as much oxygen as phytoplankton. Phytoplankton emits 50% of the oxygen that we are breathing. But nobody cares about phytoplankton. It's there, yes, these tiny cells that are working there, and 50% of the oxygen that we are breathing are coming from the oceans and from the phytoplankton. For cycling, of course, phytoplankton is essential, and part of this phytoplankton goes down and can be stored in sediments, of course. But in this case, what I'm talking about is not only in another presentation I go deeper in this topic, but in this case it's not only the trees and the leaves of the mangrove, for example, but all the sediment that is retained and compacted. Part of this storage of carbon that can be there, last for decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, is because this is immobilized and is not respired in some way, is not returning to the system, because when you are acquiring this carbon, part of this carbon immediately goes to respiration and then it's returning to the system. Even if you are an autotroph, part of the carbon is of course going to the system again. In this case, all these carbon sequesters are just the blue carbon, that is say the blue carbon. This blue carbon is coming from the structure of seaweeds, structure of seagrasses, structure of mangroves on salt marshes. Okay. So this is the carbon that is retained permanently, which is never permanently, you know very well, but it's lasting for decades, hundreds of years, thousands or millions of years. So, do we have something about carbon storage or carbon sink in the animal forest? The answer is no. You can find it in Google, put Google Scholar and look for carbon sink. And for animal, not animal forest, because this is a very new and fancy word. I use animal forest, not because it's an ecological word, because it's easy to understand. And we need easy words to understand. It's not because it's an ecological word. I wouldn't defend animal forest as a word that is trying to make it a revolution in the ecology. No, guys. No. It's because it's very easy to imagine a forest on the land and then automatically imagine a forest on the sea. It's only because of this. It's a gathering concept. It's not a concept that has to be translated in the ecological meaning. No, we have already different kind of habitats, different kind of ecosystems, ecosystem functioning, blah, blah, blah. Have been this calculation made? The answer is no. You can look it, and even if it's one of the most widespread potential carbon sinks all over the world, it's not calculated. Nobody calculated. Only there is some number about coral reefs. But it's not true, because there is the controversial about coral reefs, is they are carbon sinks or not. And you can also see that there's people that are saying that coral reefs, as they are calcium carbonate, they are not carbon sinks. It's it's questionable. For me, are carbon sinks what we have to demonstrate in many ways. So these are the only numbers that we have about carbon sinks. We calculated the carbon sink in the Mediterranean, in 3 Mediterranean gorgonians, okay, and we calculated 3 Mediterranean gorgonians. What was mixotrophic and the other 2 were heterotrophic, which means that what was relying on the feeding up with the microscopic algae and also the capture of particles, and the other only in the capture of particles. And this is the number that we get, and we're trying to publish in this eternal discussion, 1.5 years of this fucking paper, sorry, that we are there fighting, because it's a very new thing and the editor wants to be sure that all is okay. I understand, ha ha ha. Okay, 0.014 tons of carbon hectare and year. But saying that, you would say, thank you, Sergio, and so what? Can you give me some comparison with other systems? Yes, of course. Wetlands, 0.90 tons of carbon hectare year, approximately. These are very rough numbers, of course, like mine. Amazonian forest, 1.02 tons of carbon hectare year, which is almost 2 orders of magnitude. Seagrasses, this systems is 6.7 tons of carbon per hectare and year, which is huge quantity. And mangroves, which is 1.5 or 1.5 tons of carbon hectare year, approximately. And you would say, thank you to participate, Sergio, but your gorgonians are really a bad storage organism. As we see that these are the champions, and this is really very far away. But I have to just say 2 things in defense of my gorgonians. The first thing is that these are only 3 gorgonians. It's not all the coral region. We don't have this number yet. We have to think about the huge quantity of organisms in the coral region. So probably, I don't know, and I wouldn't say, yes, it's like that. This could also rise by 1 point. And could be, I don't know, repeat, instead of 0.014, could be 0.40, for example. That would be a really good thing. And the second thing is, think about what is the land occupation of the forest and what is the ocean occupation of the animal forest. nobody knows about it. We don't have real numbers about how much they occupy. So we don't have this number, and this is really defined. So looking at the history, and this is very, 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 very important, one of the problems is also this problem. This is a precious coral of the Mediterranean coast that was before we harvest up to the local extinction in some places and the complete transformation. This has thousands of polyps that can take organic matter, and this is the coral down. So what happened with this marine animal forest? That they have been deeply transformed during the last, especially 200 years. Before, ancient times, now. This can store very little carbon compared to this one. And this is not already existing. This disappeared long time ago. We passed from a tree forest to a grassland. And this is only one example, but I will give you very few more. Look at this. This picture was took in the 18th century. This drawing on the 18th century. It's about coral too. It's about the coral that I was talking just few minutes ago. What do you see here? You see something?
Sorry?
You see something here?
Yeah.
What is? I will just give you some clue. Now the coral has to be took at more than 100 meters depth by professional scuba divers. Okay. What do you see here?
They're just snorkeling. Not even snorkeling. They're just catching with the hands.
Look this. The bunda. The bunda. And look at the size. So they were taking these corals from 15, maximum 20 meters depth. They are not even have any kind of weight. Did you make apnea? You know how much it costs to go down and how dangerous it is from 15 meters depth down below. These guys are taking coral just in the shallow waters. And all this coral is gone. As are gone, for example, in Australia, all these structures, 1893, 1994, is the same picture. This is a very nice paper about, and it's one of my colleagues that is called Ruth Thurston that is working on historical ecology, which is an extremely important and interesting branch of knowledge. And say something like that, like, guys, things are completely changing. What you are looking now is a completely transformed marine animal forest and also land forest and also other places. For example, here, this is England, and this is Belgium, Holland, Germany, and Denmark. There was a huge bank of oysters. This huge bank of oysters is gone. It's not anymore existing. There are no oysters in this huge bank, which was very shallow, and was even a dangerous place to move your ship because of these oysters were just moving in the sense that they were growing in one place, growing in another place, and continuously structuring all the benthos in these areas. So this kind of exploitation or this kind of problems has to be taken into account. Why? Well, look at the oysters, for example. These are oysters, tons of oysters that were just dredged in Chesapeake Bay. And in Chesapeake Bay, they exterminate the oysters. They just sweep them out with other organisms. And the problem is very simple. This is a healthy oyster bank. You have many animals, and the oyster filter the water. And here you have no oyster bank, and you have lot of nutrients and lot of particles that are just making the situation much more complicated for all the system. So this kind of marine animal forests have a huge problem. And you have to think, this is bottom trawled area. Warming, ocean acidification, sea level rise. Have to be honest, bottom trawling is at the moment the real problem for the continental platform and deep animal forest. Because all these organisms have been swept out. You have to think that numbers of 2002, one third of the continental platform is bottom trawled each year, all over the world. Each year. So all these two-dimensional structures are gone, are not existing anymore in many, many places because of bottom trawling. You can compare bottom trawling with this. Imagine, for example, that you have your forest in Africa, and to take some elephants and to take some, lions, or to take some antelopes or whatever, you destroy completely the three-dimensional structure. This is what we are doing in the sea. This is exactly what we are doing with bottom trawling, which is really extended and is an industrial business, has an industrial business plan. These are bottom trawled areas. These are bottom trawled areas. And this destruction of the three-dimensional structure in the world by many things, not mostly bottom trawling, is faster than our knowledge on these ecosystems. And this is a truth. The truth is that if we see not the three-dimensional structure, geological structure, but if we try to understand what do we know about the Earth's ocean, about the habitats, about the communities, about the structure of these habitats, we don't have more than 5% mapped. Not about the three-dimensional, we know there are the canyons, we know there are the sea mountains, all this is okay. We have a map of the ocean floor, but we don't have the map of the living communities, except in some places. I will give a very, very, very short example. These are all the sea mountains detected, okay, all over the world. And in yellow and in blue are the mountains that we know something. In yellow, 200 are poorly known, blue, 100, some data available. So, of these 20,000 sea mountains, we do not know nothing, because really arrive to these points and really make transects, ROV, try to understand what happens is very, 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 very difficult. And we know, but we have to do it in some way. So, let's go to the point. I will give you a small snapshot of what we are really trying to understand. And what are the changes in the energy fluxes due to climate change? So climate change is deeply changing the water column because of the warming, because of stratification, because of many things. So now we want to understand how this is impacting the marine animal forest. The first thing to understand is this very, very, very simple input-output scheme diagram, okay? You have the energy inputs, heterotrophic and autotrophic. Here you have a coral, here you have an ascidian, here you have an hydrozoan, here you have a bivalve, whatever it is. So all of them are heterotrophic. Some of them may be also autotrophic. And you have here the energy outputs: respiration, growth, excretion, reproduction, death, and secondary metabolites. Most important, of course, is respiration. Everyone needs to respirate. And then growth and reproduction are also investing a huge quantity of carbon. So what will happen? This is a general scheme of what will or what could happen with climate change. CO2 is rising, okay? Warming and ocean acidification, deoxygenation and eutrophication, and decreasing water transparency. This one may be one of the problems. Change of the circulation patterns. This is another potential problem. Terrestrial runoff is also changing because of the drops and the floods, and the patterns of the interaction between the land and ocean and sea systems. Nutrient input and pollution, the sea level rise, deep changes in the trophic relationships in the water column but also in the benthos, decrease in organic matter delivery to all these structures, and impacts on biodiversity and nursery effect. We will try to just, resuming this very, very quickly, I don't want to give you a huge talk now, how we are trying to fix all these things, or most of these things, with the projects that we are trying to carry on. The first thing is autotrophy, temperature and efficiency, sea level rise and acidification and metabolic effort is one of the main problems of the, for example, stony corals. Stony corals are too much efficient, and other structural organisms, like for example this kind of hydrocoral, in which you have very efficient structures to harvest light. So efficient that now with the warming of the water column, they are impacted by bleaching. Okay, this is one of the main things that we have to understand. Which will be the organisms that will survive, and which will be the organisms with mixotrophic strategies that wouldn't survive, because of this light harvesting temperature and the efficiency of these structures. Other organisms seems to be much happier, like for example sponges, mixotrophic sponges, and octocorals, mixotrophic octocorals, and of course heterotrophic octocorals have their own problems and their own success or not. Sea level rise, this is also quite important in this kind of thing. Sea level rise may be impacting also the light harvesting in these organisms. In this case, is quite in some areas it's quite sure that could be just influencing the light penetration, and acidification and metabolic effort, which also has a very, very heavy load to pay for this kind of organisms and this community. So all those organisms which are extremely efficient can be in some way extinguished, can be extinct during the next decades. You know about many, for example, horny corals, many organisms which are extremely good, have extremely good performance in photosynthesis, and others which are more adapted to other kind of how can I say, to other kind of light harvesting, and they are also relying on heterotrophy and so on, can be much more benefited by this huge problem. The other one is the heterotrophy. Changes in food quantity and quality, changes in the treatise composition, changes in oxygen availability, and changes in ocean circulation. The first one is a very interesting one that is already happening.
Just a little point, maybe you could add microplastic problem also.
Yes, I mean, yes, because the corals are very, they like the plastics. I don't know why, but it has been proved in Australia that they love the plastics.
Ascidians
yes.
And the other ones probably are...
Yes. I mean, we don't know, but this is of course one of the problems, because all the microplastic that is entering the structures is not food. Cannot be digested. Mm-hmm. So if let us say 36% of the prey is microplastic, you are losing 36% of the capability to... No, for sure. This is only for climate change, but I will insist later on that the local pollution, local problems and impacts are also extremely important. It's not only climate change. In this case, what will happen, what is happening already, is that climate warming makes more stratification in some places, and especially in low, medium latitudes. This is really has been the changes in the phytoplankton performance and the phytoplankton production is already a problem. Is already an existing problem, and you have to think that the phytoplankton is the base of everything in the oceans. I mean, all the other steps in the trophic chain depends on phytoplankton. Depends on phytoplankton that changing its even the species composition, the biomass, and almost the structure of the cells because of global warming and also of ocean acidification will change in some way. Synergy effect of acidification and temperature rise will affect metabolism, growth, and morphology of several primary producers. So this kind of changes in phytoplankton will be very important for our marine animal forests, because they are feeding directly or indirectly, as I will say, to the with the phytoplankton. And this is one video that I found recently.
Become a little less crowded. A new study led by NASA researchers has found populations of the microscopic marine plant phytoplankton have decreased in recent years. Individual phytoplankton are invisible to the human eye, but they can be detected from space by looking at the color of the oceans. Using a NASA model in combination with ocean satellite data, scientists observed in the northern hemisphere a 1% decrease of phytoplankton per year between 1998 and 2012.
Phytoplankton are the first level of the food chain. They feed fishes, but also larger mammals, including whales. Plus, phytoplankton, just like trees, absorb carbon dioxide and emit oxygen. So there is a constant exchange between the ocean and the atmosphere of gas. In fact, the ocean absorbs about 25% of the carbon dioxide that is emitted by humans. We don't know whether the decrease will keep on going, but what we know is that this decrease could likely have an effect on carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and the food chain.
So this decrease in phytoplankton, which is a real thing, I mean, during the last more or less 15, 16 years in the Northern Pacific, it has been detected a decrease in the 15% of the phytoplankton productivity. I think it's a problem. I don't know. But this will have a repercussion also in these small guys, zooplankton, that is already changing. I don't know if you have, well, I have many papers that have been written 10 years ago or more, in which long time series demonstrate that zooplankton is in some parts, like for example Antarctica, the Northern Sea, changing over time. Copepods are smaller, the cycles and the phenology of the organism is radically changing, and all this is a viable food for the animal, the marine animal forest. All these are part of the entering of carbon and of energy from these organisms. So if this is changing, probably it will also change the quantity of energy that you may have to make reproduction, breathe, respiration, and growth. And do not dismiss the detritus, the organic matter that is distinguishable from living matter. The quantity of detritus is also changing. This is from phytoplankton. But remember that in coastal areas, and also in other areas, because the transport is much larger than we think, is these guys. These are also changing. Deep changes in benthic primary productivity. Seaweeds and seagrasses. This is already changing too. And this is part of the detritus that will go to my guys. Because my guys have, for example, up to 50-60% of the energy that enters is detritus. It's not copepods or it's not phytoplankton, it's detritus. It's all these particles that are produced not only by the phytoplankton and the dead zooplankton, but also by phytorogans and seaweeds that are also already deeply changing. So we have to understand all this mess. We have to think about all these things that are deeply changing, that are really making a new panorama, a new completely different panorama. And this is also another problem that marine animal forests, but also us have, is the change in the current patterns, not only local current patterns, but global current patterns. This is Peter Spooner from the Atlas project. They understood that during the last 20-25 years, we lost 15% of the power of the energy transport by the Gulf current. We've already lost this 15% of energy transmission because this is weakening with climate change. This is drastically weakening. And he says, we're just starting to understand how the Atlantic mainstream current is tied to the wide range of ecosystem effects and climatology implications. Yes, my friends, because of course the sea animal forest, marine animal forest will have these problems with currents, dispersion, particle transport, connectivity, deoxygenation. Most of the deeper marine animal forests may suffer from deoxygenation, for example. They already have this problem. They are already having this problem, especially in certain areas in which there is much eutrophication. But also the particle transport will change, and also the connectivity between the marine animal forest. I'm talking about the marine animal forest, but you can extrapolate to many other places all over many other ecosystems and other taxa all over the world. So this is very, very simply the problems that we have. We have autotrophy, heterotrophy, we have ocean warming, ocean acidification. We don't know if in heterotrophy, ocean acidification will have a problem. We have to prove it. This drawing was made by Nadine Schubert within the paper that I will show you. And I told, hey, Nadine, you lost one arrow here to here. And she said, no, I didn't forget to put the arrow. It's not proven, so we cannot put it. Okay, you are right.
Terrible girl.
You are right, you are right. I said, no, I say, hey, but it's lost, the arrow. I said, no, it's not lost. It's not lost, it's that we don't know nothing. We can put here an arrow with a question point, but we don't know. So this is resumed, you know, the effects on phytoplankton, zooplankton, detritus, ocean warming, and what I have been talking. Just to finish.
Indirectly.
Directly, of course, because you have many other things. This is why the good thing is that we will all have work. You know how, I mean, we have worked for hundreds of years. This is fantastic. The bad thing is that things are getting too much fast to just understand, or you give me much more elements to make these kind of things, translated money, or it will be difficult to just know exactly what we have to do. So, briefly to finish the talk, is understanding what will be the repercussions, what we have to study. These are only few questions and few things. I mean, we have many other things. Which organisms will be more affected, passive or active suspension feeders? Will the autotrophic component increase or decrease? Will climate change favor species that are less capable to store carbon in their structures? And more intriguing, how long will this transition phase take? To understand this, and to understand that this is for real, this is in the Mediterranean a mass mortality. This is a Gorgonian forest that is dead. Okay, it's all dead. Okay, because of global warming, because of a shift in temperature. All these are the skeletons of the Gorgonians. Okay, some pieces are still alive. Okay, but most of the Gorgonians is already dead, and then it's colonized, and then it's not capable to just withstand, and the cycle starts again. Okay, all these mass mortalities that you are used to see in the Great Barrier Coral Reef Barrier in Australia, because you see all these images, always, at least one of the Mediterranean could be also interesting to see that this is a widespread model that is not only the Mediterranean, is of course partly due not only because of the warming, but especially on the deficit of food. War per se, having higher temperatures could be damaging, for example, the photosynthetic organisms. I agree with you that mixotrophic organisms are really under pressure with that. But heterotrophic ones, if they have food, they can respire. If they can respire, a shift in 1.2, 1.5, 2 degrees centigrades wouldn't be enough to just kill them all. You need to be starving. And these organisms are starving because they don't have food, because they don't have the currents transporting these elements to their mouths.
How deep is this place?
How
Depth.
From 0 to 30 meters depth. It's very shallow. The other organisms from 35 to 40 meters depth, no worries, no problems. There was no mass mortality. The mass mortality is detected especially in areas in which you have this shallow area. So very much complex. It's understanding. And these are the things that we are studying. On the one side, we are studying what happens in the water column and what happens with the food availability. Phytoplankton, they are mixotrophy too, and in this case, the repercussions in nutritional conditions of the organism, nutritional conditions of sponges, gorgonians, and so on. Trophic changes, so the trophic changes are which kind the trophic change and the trophic exchange within the systems which are already in transform. Mother care, the mother care is the quantity of fuel, is the quantity of energy that the mother gorgonian can give to the next generation, which are the eggs or the larvae of this organism. This is very important. The quantity of lipids that can be stored in the larvae that have to be released. Larval fitness, which is related to mother care. We are also studying this, trying to understand these organisms, how much can move, how much time they have to move and settle down. Dispersion and effective recruitment. So related not only with the currents, but also with the larval fitness, how much time can stand there as larvae and settle down in the new territory, in the new rock or new structure, and the synergy with other local factors, which is also very important. It's very important to understand also if you have impacts of pollution, if you have impact on suspension, if you have a river runoff, many other things that can be not related only to climate change, but with many other things. And these are the two papers that we have published. This is one, very recently published in the Journal of Marine Science, in which we try to understand, which we make this question, changes of energy fluxes in the marine animal first of Anthropocene, factors shaping the future seascape, and trying to, in this Quo Vadimo section, make a perspective paper trying to put some questions for the future. And this other one, which is more related to the Mediterranean, but could be also interesting about the effect of global warming and reproduction and potential dispersion in Mediterranean areas. But many of these messages can be also translated to other places, to other systems that can have or may have similar situations all over the world. And that's all. Thank you very much. You have questions, observations? This is what we are doing in the sense that we are planning to make this project. I'm trying to plan this project also here to make other. I love to compare systems. I love to compare Antarctica. I went to Antarctica, I went to Chile, in Mexico, Caribbean, Brazil. I really love to compare systems. So I'm trying also to work with all these problems also and see if there are common patterns or very different patterns or whatever.
I think among the lot of interesting things that Sergio is telling us is that for everything, I think we can share experiences. Answers can come from different sides and from different kinds of organisms and processes. So yes, botanists can and should work together with zoologists. That's really very nice. Huh? Great.
Yes, I think so. The best thing is to try to fit and to collate all the people that is working in different topics. Here there is room for oceanographers, there is room for geologists. Here there is room also for example, modelers. Here there is room for people that is working with biodiversity. Here there is room for many, many people to try to understand and fix this thing. Is this why I told you that I don't know if they will give the project, but we are trying to make this huge project in which we compare Caribbean, northeastern Brazil, also the Atlantic part, Portugal in this case, and the Mediterranean. Trying to, with the same protocols, with the same approach, try to calculate these fluxes of carbon, trying to calculate the carbon sinks, trying to calculate the biodiversity, nurturing effect, and so on in the marine forest, because this project also has fatted organisms and seaweeds. Because I thought it was a clever idea to just making not only the marine animal forest, which is okay, is my branch of work, but also try to gather all these people that is working in other things.
Sergio, I understand that you are starting this project.
We present the project the 4th of September.
Yes, so how you are addressing seasonality in your project? Because especially in our area, seasonality is very important. The winter is something, the summer is another thing completely different, and we still don't know who is really in charge of the production, if it's winter or summer. So how are you addressing this?
I'm obsessed with seasonality. It's part of my work during the last 25 years. Sediment traps on the one side and continuous monitoring of the species during the whole year. No, I don't like the works in which they go only once. It's not that I understand the constraints, but now, for example, in the Caribbean Sea, but also in other tropical areas, they are understanding that, well, the corals are not the same in summer than in winter. Of course. No, but here we don't have seasonality. Yes, you have. Of course you have. No, we are in the tropics. No, guy. You have a very huge difference, even if the temperature is not changing so much. Yeah. We are changing only from 26 to 31. Yes, that's true, but there is a rain factor, there is the cloud factor, which is giving less light for your mixotrophic organism. The performance of the organism is different. You have much more or less symbiodinium inside your organism, or more chlorophyll within your symbiodinium. All these things are changing. We are not about to publish, but we submitted a paper with Nadir again about the seasonality of two Gorgonian Caribbean Gorgonian mixotrophic organisms, which are very different. They have a huge seasonality. And we demonstrate what has been demonstrated in the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea, the organisms have only one chance, the spring. In spring, they have to gather all the energy for the rest of the year. The rest of the year, they're just in the limit of the input-output, especially for respiration. And we demonstrated just many years ago. So, is the spring the important part in the Mediterranean Sea? And what about the Caribbean? In the Caribbean, they seem to have also a seasonal behavior, a seasonal adaptation, a seasonal, change in these two organisms. But it's very different, because one Gorgonian has an important part of heterotrophic component, it's zooplankton, and the other one doesn't care. I mean, the input of zooplankton and detritus and so on is calculated less than 0.5% or something like that. It's very, 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 very low. The other is coming from light. These kind of things will give you the idea of which could survive or not, but you have to take seasonality into account. And I will see you more another thing. Not only seasonality, but also the frequency within the day. People is not, nobody's making intensive cycles each 4 hours, because it's very hard. But you will see huge differences in only, we made, for example, I recently published a paper in which we made 6 days, each 4 hours. No, each 6 hours, sorry, 6 hours. Night, day, afternoon, evening, night, day, during these 6 days, we made all this really huge effort. And we found huge differences. In only one moment of this week, they gather all the energy that they need for the whole week. So this kind of approach is also important, because this frequency of pulses of food is also changing. But we don't know nothing.
And are you working with in situ and ex situ experiments combined?
Yes, we are making in situ experiments with chambers. With specific chambers in the small curves that I will give. I will try to explain what we are doing. We have chambers that we put in situ, and within the chambers you have the natural conditions, and then we close the circuit, and then we see how much they fit with the temperature, same light, same thing. The current, of course, is changing because it's a closed circuit, but it's okay. And then we see, for example, the heterotrophic inputs. And ex situ, we are making also experiments. Yes.
Are you doing that in Brazil as well?
I want to bring my chambers here.
Because we are seeing some evidence of a decline in the abundance of a Gorgonian here, Philogorgia dilatata. If you look different places around Brazil, old papers, you see that they used to be very abundant. And now you go there and you don't see any individual. And people thought that was because of some disease, and we didn't think about food, the availability of food. So that would be interesting because we saw that in Parcial do Manuel Luiz, that is in Maranhão. We saw that in Rio and another place in Bahia also. Abrolhos, yeah. So it's something
possible.
interesting to look at.
That is changing completely. I made a work, but in my PhD thesis, normally, well, when T-Rex was there and the other dinosaurs were just walking on Earth, my PhD thesis just 25 years ago, so paleoecology. And I was obsessed with this spatial-temporal comparison. And then I made, I think in the classes I will also tell about this thing. I made a simple thing, haha. What is putting sediment traps in France and sediment traps in Spain, okay. And then follow two Gorgonian, two octocoral, Levas leptogorgia, sarmentosa, two Gorgonian populations, okay. And I saw the availability of food, and also the currents, the winds, blah, 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 many environmental parameters in both places, and the outputs of the organism. So the inputs was the feeding, and the outputs was the reproduction, growth, and of course I also saw mortality. What happened? In France, the availability of food was 1 order of magnitude less than in Spain. And in only 2 years, which I have been making the monitoring, the mortality in Spain was 4%. The mortality in France was 40%. And I demonstrate that the food that were taking the French Gorgonians was much less than the food that was captured in Spain first. And then reproduction was 1 order of magnitude less in France versus Spain. And the growth was much less, it was half in France versus Spain. Spain. So what I demonstrated, or what I suggest, as the paper said, is that food was responsible for the change in my Gorgonians. 10 years later, I went again to France. And I say, well, I will see how are my Gorgonians. No Gorgonians.
No Gorgonians.
My Gorgonians were disappeared completely. And the Gorgonians in Spain were healthy and were good, and they were just there and growing and reproducing and so on. So yes, food is essential to understand all these things. This is why I'm obsessed with this energy fluxes.
And were they replaced by someone?
Yes, they were also, yes. There was another mixotrophic species that grew up and was much more abundant, and there was a polycate that substituted also the bivalves. There were bivalves before, and the bivalves were whipped out completely, and they were substituted by Ditruparietina, which is a polycate that now is abundant. These changes are continually happening, and now more and more dramatic.
Is this an invasive species or is
Ditruparietina? No. It's common. I mean, no, in this case, it's not an invasive species. This is another point that is very interesting, because invasive species sometimes are taking the place of species that are already weakened by conditions which are not the best for them. And then, in the Mediterranean Sea, what is happening? Apart of fish, all the people is looking at the fishes, for example, as invaders, which is good. And they are just spreading. Tropical species are spreading all over the Mediterranean. That's really, it's truth. I mean, it's not. But what about the corals? The corals that are coming from the Red Sea, they are much more comfortable now in the Mediterranean Sea because of the tropicalization of the Mediterranean Sea. They're much more comfortable now.
Actionaceans?
Actionaceans, yes, and also Gorgonians and Actionaceans especially, and these are not invaders, are immigrants, which are going from the part that are changing to hot to places in which they are much more. They are immigrants. This is a migration. This is really. They are immigrants of places in which they are not so happy, or maybe not so happy.
To survive.
Exactly. That's all. That's all.
That's it. But one thing to look for is the food quality.
Yes.
We are observing that the nitrogen amount is reducing. So this is something important. Where normally we have the same amount of energy per biomass, but sometimes in this biomass we have less nitrogen. So This is something that we are observing in many seaweeds and seagrasses when we expose these organisms to high concentrations of CO2 and sometimes high temperature too. So yeah,
yes,
let's look for it.
But to test it is very simple. We test the quality of food with lipids, and it's extremely simple. With lipids, total lipids, spectrophotometry, very easy protocol, and you can see the quantity of food that is available to the organism. Which these lipids are directly related with growth, for example, has been demonstrated that are related with the growth of the organism. There are many papers talking about that. And it's very simple. You don't have to make very complicated. First, you make organic matter. Okay. Second, carbon and nitrogen. Okay, a little bit more sophisticated, the CN relationship. And also with the phosphorus, you have the tools to do that. And lipids. Lipids are so simple. With the water column, with the zooplankton, with the sediments, with all the things that can be part of the praise of your organism. And you are completely right. The excess of CO2 is changing also the quality of the plants. They have an excess of CO2, and they lost the possibility to concentrate more nutrients by unit of biomass. And this for the organisms is terrible, because they need carbon, but they also need other things. They also need other kind of food, not only cellulose or yes.
Yeah, one important thing that we must pay attention is that many times we are waiting for acidification, looking for the skies, for the atmosphere, but the eutrophization processes is bringing acidification by beneath or by the bottom. So our benthic organisms are already exposed to acidification because, well, we are acidifying all the coastline with literal shit. So our president loves shit, so we can all use shit right now as a word.
It's like a fashion word.
Yes, a fashion. Now it's fashion now. We can use shit. If a president says shit, we can say shit. Shit. Sorry.
Yes. No, it's okay. I mean, it's true that things are changing so fast that we are trying to understand how these systems are transforming, because many of the ecosystem services that are related with this marine animal forest and also the vegetal forest and many other things are changing so fast. This project is exactly this. In this project, Europe wants three. One, understand what is happening. Second, understand how this that is happening is affecting ecosystem services. And third, Europe wants solutions. And this is very important. In this project, there is also an effort to give solutions to these problems. Restoration solutions, mariculture solutions, circular economy solutions, blue growth solutions, solutions of engagement with the people. This is what Europe wants. Europe is saying, okay, give me the tools to understand what is happening, but please give me some hope and some solution to these problems. And we have to struggle, and we have to think about the possibility to, we need to give these tools to just give some way to make the things in another way, with another plan, with another strategy.
When you talk about restoration, we always discuss the importance of knowing the baselines.
Yes.
So what are we targeting? So how do you address this problem of baseline? For instance, we have in Brazil, Paulo told about the acidification. We have this understanding that in the Northeast, for example, this acidification can be happening since the sugar cane industry, like 70s, 80s. So we don't have a good baseline for these changes. It's happening fast now, but it comes like centuries ago. So how do you address this issue?
With one of the tasks within the Work Package 4 is historical ecology. historical ecology, which is not the best because it's qualitative or semi-quantitative, but they have tools to understand, at least for example, order of magnitude of biomass. And also the pollution in the area, the runoff in the area, and some points which can be compared with the actual points, with the present points. This, the work package 4 is first is past, present ecosystem, past ecosystem services, present ecosystem, and future ecosystem services based on the present and on the past. We have the modelers that will model the possibility to have a perspective of what will happen if this continues in this way, or if we have some mitigation plans or something like that.
So you're trying to combine understanding of community, ecosystem services, abiotic parameters in this story.
Try to do it. I mean,
it's difficult.
It's almost impossible. I have to say that it will be difficult, we will try to just combine all these things, trying to make as realistic as possible, especially because we are comparing at least 4 systems, which is very difficult. Then trying to only focus on some of the, not only the parameters, but also on the organism or on the target or key organs that can be, we can make a follow-up. No, it wouldn't be easy at all, I mean, for sure. But well, we are presenting and we will try. If we can do it, we will try to go this way. And well, if it's not working this project, other projects will work. I mean, we will try to do in other ways, or searching for other funding, or yes.
Are you working with Flavia Nunes from Ifremer, France?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I will give you another gift.
Okay,
for
okay.
you to
Okay,
see
fantastic.
this matter of historical ecology.
Okay. No, I mean, and the consortium is good. I mean, we have a very, very strong consortium. And in this case, this project passed the first evaluation part. In Europe, you have 2 evaluations. The first evaluation is 10 pages proposal, in which you put the idea there. And then, if you pass, they give you the opportunity to present 70 pages project in which you explain more. It's not financed here, so from 15, there were 61 projects presented, and we passed 15. From these 15, 4 or 5 will be financed. So now is the 30% more or less, 33%. But if you take from the beginning, it was the 5% or something like that. It's really yes.
That's strong and
It's
brave.
no, we have to do it. I mean, now it's our turn to do that. It's our turn to do with Paolo, with other people of Fortaleza, with other people of to give them the tools to work like sorry, did I say that? Sorry, that's a joke. No, to work with this kind of topics. Come on, this is fantastic.
Yeah, this is great to have the opportunity to work in that, work like that with good people. Man, it's extraordinary opportunity, in fact. So, well, thank you, Sergio, very much. In our name, I'm sure that was really very great morning. And well, I think we have a bit of minutes to discuss about the course.
Okay.
Have you the list?
There's something here.
Okay, just because